Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Gods at the Stadium of Light. We are way, way, way up high. I think we're basically back row
we can
of
touch
a
the
second
roof.
tier.
We can actually. Well, certainly you
I'm not doing that because if I stand up,
if we jump up, we'll touch the roof of the highest stand. I think, which is the main stand.
Well, that kind of grey there that you can see, that is the start of the roof. And I don't know if Adam maybe on his other device can just spin you around and show you the view that we have, which is a fantastic view of the pitch. I'm not particularly enjoying how high up we are. There you go. That gives you a really good indication. I am actually clinging onto the desk just in case. I'm all right now. I think I'm sat down. Hopefully, that's going to be the only worry of the afternoon. And Norwich City are going to produce a free-flowing, excellent performance that sees them win this game, which is obviously what they need to do. We're about a minute or so away from the team news being announced. Paddy, what are you expecting / thinking we will see? Or maybe we're speaking with a slightly educated view.
Yeah, well, we'll hold fire on the predictions because we're always right on those. But we, as in announced,
team.
Well, no predictions as in score. But I think both of us are of the same opinion, and I think it might have an L as the prominent letter in terms of the outcome today, which would continue a theme which nobody wants.
Lucky win.
A lucky win. Okay, fair enough. Well, it could be that as well, but no, I think we'll all head back down to Norfolk, digesting another defeat, and it might well be the scale of it in terms of where we go from here, because we all know the story around this club at the moment and a certain individual. So, as Benjamin pithily put there, David's employment status. But I personally don't think, irrespective of the result today, that's going to be the topic we need to worry about in the next day or two, or
week or two.
Even that, this side of Blackburn, I'd venture, maybe even this side of the international break upcoming, which is after Cardiff, 2 weeks hence. So, I think it'll probably be more of the same, sadly, which is
right.
Good.
Team news. Let's bring it to you, and it is here. Long in goal as first EFL Championship start for Kellen Fisher at right back. Duffy, Gibson, and Yanulis make up the back four. Midfield three, as we understand it, are Forshaw, McLean, and Sarah, with Rowe on the right, Fashnacht on the left, and Huang Yuzhou up front. And the subs bench, Caleb Anson, Jack Stacey, Danny Bart, Liam Gibbs, Shemiswav Poaheta, Onel Hernandez, Borja Sainz, and Adam Ida. I'll just read that to you again. George Long in goal, Fisher, Duffy, Gibson, and Giannoulis as the back four. A midfield three we're expecting of Forshaw, McLean, and Sarah. Rowe, Fashnacht, and Huang leads the line for Norwich City. A subs bench of Anson, Stacey, Bart, Gibbs, Poaheta, Nunez, Hernandez, Sainz, and Ida. Much to dissect there, Paddy. Let's start with the change out. Certainly got wind that this may be the case last night. A big day for him. What do you make of that change and Jack Stacey being dropped out?
Well, it is a drop, isn't it? Because
he's on the bench.
There is no fitness issue. I mean, we were led to believe it might have been in the last week or two he just playing with one or two injections. So whether there's something there at the minute, but it does feel, if I filter it through what David Wagner said to the question I asked him about, have you been too loyal yesterday? Because you look at the last two home games, two changes. I think it was 3 at Swansea, and the results have been flatlining tracking in the wrong direction. Did you need to just freshen it up? Well, he's certainly done that today. I made up 4 changes from midweek. And Fisher in is the headline because it's, first time we've seen him in Championship starting action. Has he come off the bench in the Championship?
Possibly. He's definitely played in the Cup, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely has, yeah. And to be fair, Fulham's second string, but still a very strong Premier League outfit. He looked okay up against Willian that night. And, the fact that Stacey's on the bench would indicate to me that is a freshening up operation. And, we got a signal just before just upon arrival here that Forshaw was going to be in there alongside Sarah and McLean in the 3. That to me is pretty telling that the type of game David Wagner envisages today. Sunderland are known for trying to play a lot of possession football under Tony Mowbray. So it feels to me if you're going with a 3 in the middle of the park, you want to be solid, try and protect your back four, and then hit in transition on the counter. But it is interesting, I think, further forward, Huang and Fashnacht.
What do you make of that?
Well, Fashnacht, his form has fallen off a cliff, a bit like Norwich's, let's be honest, from the player who first arrived and who looked so at ease in the Championship and in this Norwich team and was contributing. That hasn't happened subsequently. David, when I asked him about that a couple of weeks ago, talked about they've just come through a very congested period. That applies to a lot of these players, but again, in the context of he needs to freshen it up, he's gone that way today. I'm looking at who's come out. Nunes, I find that a little bit harsh in terms of what he offered midweek, but then if it's more about the shape and what they're trying to do today, then you can see that change. And Hwang Farida, well, I'll be amazed if anybody really is pro that change, because I don't think Hwang has shown enough ultimately since he's come to the club and had his opportunities.
But more from the Eder perspective, because we saw him hauled off on Tuesday night after probably his best 10-minute spell, straight down the tunnel. Wasn't happy. The fans booed that substitution. Hwang, beyond a flick for a John Rowe goal against Birmingham, has offered very little, to be honest. So surprising to see him in there.
Yes, but then again, that was one I put to David yesterday, and his answer was, that he felt Adam, having played reasonably well in the first half, was lacking energy as that second half developed. So if that's to take the manager as words, felt he was lacking energy, then maybe he feels 2 or 3 days on. That's, from a freshening point of view, let's go with Hwang, and it's an opportunity for him today. He's not had too many starts. I'm sure he didn't come here to swap one bench for the other in terms of Forest. So take your opportunity today and let's see what you're all about now, because so far he's been fairly unconvincing. And if you're Adam Eder, you probably are unhappy with life at the minute. And conversely, if he comes into this game in the second half, he shouldn't lack the motivation and wanting to prove a point. So that might be David's thinking as well. Maybe light a fire under him. But if I'm looking at it and I'm looking at which of those two, I think if you polled most Norwich fans, the majority would probably say Adam Eder. So, he lives and dies by his calls, doesn't he? And so far, it hasn't paid off in this run of 7 or 8 games and 2 league wins. So today, you can't accuse him of status quo there today, can you? 4 changes, debut we think in the league starting wise, certainly for Fisher. He's gone to changing the shape in the middle of the park with Forshaw. That's different to what we've had so far. So he is trying to shake things up, but obviously whether it pays dividends or not, time will tell in the hours ahead. But at least you can look at that lineup, look at the shape, and feel that it's an acceptance from him that it hasn't been working, and he's trying to do something about it. And it's now for these players today. If you're Fashnak, surely you want to prove a point. If you're Hwang, Forshaw as well, even Fisher. So let's see if he's got the mix right and the balance right. And as always, the result will be filtered through whether he's got it right or wrong and whether he's made the right calls or not. So we'll await how this team plays. But it needed freshening up. He said as much I felt yesterday in terms of, do you need to freshen up? And he's delivered. So, there'll be some players on that bench who aren't happy. Sainz, maybe there's a debate there. He could have come in there today. But again, depending on how this game develops, if it's level pegging or it's in the balance in the second half, I think the Sainz is a good option to bring in from the bench.
Yeah, they've got good options on the bench, so you would hope we don't have a situation that we've had in recent weeks where he's made subs and Norwich City haven't got any better. Let's bring you the Sunderland team, which I think we can bring you here. We can. They've got Patterson in goal, Hume, Luke O'Nien, Ballard and Huggins as the back four. Ekwa as a holding midfielder. Patrick Roberts, of course, a name familiar to a lot of Norwich City fans for a brief loan spell here in the first Premier League season under Daniel Farker. Dan Neil and Jobe Bellingham, not Jude Bellingham. That's a couple of times I'm going to have to think about that this afternoon, with the Championship's top scorer Clark on the left. And we'll talk more about Kellen Fisher in the moment and the task that he's got. But that is quite a baptism of fire for him. And then Rusin up front for them. It is Kellen Fisher's first minute of any kind in the Championship. Not come off the bench this season. Been on the bench on 11 occasions, but yet to start. And as we said, he's got to defend against the Championship's top scorer today. But it marks what is a really good rise. 6 months ago, he was playing National League football for Bromley. Now he's going to be playing in the Championship for Norwich City. Let's talk about some of the names that haven't made it, Pad. Borja Sainz. Naturally, there was a clamour after what was quite a bright substitute. Well, a bright first 5 minutes of his cameo on Tuesday night. He doesn't make it, as you said. Nunez dropped out as well, but particularly on Sainz, still feels like David Wagner's just holding him back a little bit fitness-wise, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is it really, and that theme continues with the Hanley news yesterday that we won't be seeing Hanley this side of the international upcoming break, which, given they have the joint worst defensive record, I'm not saying Hanley cures all the ills, but you would have thought he would be in the equation, not to be. So, like him, like Forshaw as well, who gets to start today, yeah, would have feel that is how he wants to go with Science and just drop him in at the right moments in games as he sees it. I thought he was bright. I thought he made things happen in a 10 or 15 minute spell, and then obviously Middlesbrough scored a second, and that was game over the other night. But yeah, I can kind of see the Science one today. I think, particularly if you're making 4 other changes, to drop him in there as well. Maybe that just tips too far the other way in the mind of David Wagner. But yeah, hopefully we do get to see him, and hopefully he carries on where he sort of started to show, which is for me a player who can influence something in the final third of the pitch, which Norwich are desperately lacking at the minute. They look so one-dimensional, so fitful, and John Rowe is, as he showed again with his 8th goal of the season, albeit a consolation the other night. He is the shining light, but he needs some assistance. And I think if they could work on some of the defensive structural issues, how would we all love to see a Rowe and a Science bombing forward, servicing an Eder as it is for now, and then maybe later on in the season a Sargent and/or Barnes. So I'm less concerned about going that way. It's, as always, and we've seen the flavour of the reaction to Gibson and Duffy staying in the lineup today. It's going to be what this Norwich team do out of possession and in defensive transition, because they've been...
It's more protection for those guys, isn't it?
Well, that's right, where Forshaw comes into mix. You would imagine Forshaw of the 3 in the centre will be the one tasked with just sitting deeper, maybe in alongside McLean, and maybe slightly more advanced role for Zara, which again, moving forward, has to be a good thing, because we know his strongest suit is going forward and in possession. So... I guess the outcome today, as has done in the last few weeks, hinges on, are Norwich better out of transition? When they lose the ball and teams break on them, can they be better in terms of the structure, in terms of individuals within that structure? Hitherto, and it was underlined again in midweek, too many individuals are making too many individual errors, and it's just contributing to what feels like structural imbalances in the lineup out of possession. And whether today's lineup changes that, time will tell.
Just a sort of note, I guess, that both Shane Duffy and Jonathan Rowe are on 4 yellow cards. So a yellow card for either of those today, and they will be suspended for Norwich City's next game against Blackburn. Of course, that rolls on until, I don't know exactly when the cut-off point, but it certainly is still 5 yellow cards, leads to a suspension. So there we go. Seeing the lineup, Paddy, how do you see this one going from a Norwich City perspective?
Well, I can't say prior to knowing the 11, probably only reinforces the type of game I think Wagner's looking to play here, which
mentioned
is
set pieces yesterday, didn't he? Which is
yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think it's going to be, you have the ball, you try and break us down, we'll try and hopefully have a better defensive shape, and then if they get a bit frustrated, they're 3 defeats on the spin, 2 wins in 6. They're not in a good vein of form. This crowd, every time I've been here, can go the other way if things aren't going well. That all feeds into if Norwich can frustrate them and then look to counter. We know Rowe on the counter, Zara to a degree, Yanulis one side, whether Fisher is quite as adventurous as Stacey, time will tell. But I just don't really see the attacking threat in that 11. So for me, it's going to be, can they blunt what Sunderland are going to do? And then, like you said, Connor, is it going to be a set piece? Is it going to be later in the game when the game opens up a little bit and you drop a Science in there, maybe even an Eder, and they can nick something? So for me, low scoring affair, but just feel they'll probably fall the wrong side of it again, and we'll be talking about yet another defeat. So 1-0 Sunderland, mate. You?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0, I think, Sunderland, which similar reasons and a similar vibe to you. And I think it's worth, because lots of people have joined us late, so we'll just reiterate what we were saying beforehand, because we've seen the theme of the comments coming through. They have centred around David Wagner. There were calls, obviously, from some fans, not all fans. To be fair, a lot of them had left the stadium by the time those chants had begun on Tuesday night for him to go. Where do you feel we are in terms of David Wagner and his position heading into this game?
Don't get any sense at all internally that this is now reached a tipping point. I think it will have to roll on again a few more games. We know the backstory here is there's another 3 games to the international period, but probably more importantly, another 3 games before Ben Napper takes his position officially. David confirmed yesterday there isn't any plan to fast track that and bring him into the building to have that start of that handover with Stuart Webber. So if you look at it logically, how can anything happen in terms of a new incoming head coach, hypothetically, if the guy who's going to be in charge of that process moving forward is not involved? That makes absolutely no sense. So I don't see anything changing, even if it was to be a heavy-ish defeat today. But what I do feel, what I do feel is the case is if that is where they are internally as a club, that's one thing. But hypothetically, you lose here today.
You lose badly.
You're up. You've got Blackburn at Carrow Road next Sunday as it is. You're 2-3-0 down on the hour mark. There's 24,000 at Carrow Road expressing their opinion. We all can paint that picture, and we all know where that leads to. So, there will be an external pressure that will come to bear if this doesn't halt today in terms of the result. So, in the short term, no, I don't see, purely in terms of David Wagner and his position, anything changing today, if I'm honest. And that's not the sense you get from speaking to anybody inside that football club. And it was quite clear yesterday, David Wagner implicitly saying Ben Napper is still on holiday, still scheduled not to get into the building until November the 27th. That doesn't scream a club who are on red alert to change their head coach.
No, and hopefully it's a conversation that we won't have to have after today, because Norwich will have delivered a much improved performance and hopefully got some points here at the Stadium of Light, which would be lovely. Pinkin.com, of course, the place to go for all the pre, during, post-match reaction and analysis. We'll obviously speak to David Wagner after the game. We'll win, lose or draw, and we'll be putting those questions to him. Thank you very much for watching from the gods at the Stadium of Light. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.